Dr. Rosana is a researcher, lecturer, and a data scientist with a passion for social impact, diversity, and inclusion. She has worked in multiple projects related to renewable energies, sustainability, and safety. In her free time, Rosanna mentors minorities into tech careers. This is amazing, and I would love to tell you guys right now that my first machine learning project, I was opportuned and blessed to have her as the team lead. So believe me, you guys, you are going to learn a lot on this session. Thank you, Dr. Rosanna, once again for joining. And we are glad to have you on this session. Start straight with the first question I have for you. Can you explain what data science is in simple terms? What do you know about data science? Can you just explain in simple terms what is data science?
Yeah, like I like that we can always explain things in like several levels. Like there's even this joke that you can explain things for a child and for an adult and so on. So first of all, thank you for having me. Thanks for the ones who are joining us. So yeah, data science, like I mean, as the name already says, is basically the process that we follow to extract information from data. And nowadays, of course, with the whole boom of digitalization, we have data everywhere. And the idea of data science is to kind of enhance our ability that our brains as humans have to just understand patterns and understand behaviors, but also to make this in a larger scale so that we use machines like the computers to make this in a much faster way. We can process this much faster. And yeah, this of course is very related to several topics. So, for example, you have an intersection of mathematics and computer science, and of course, the domain that you are applying or your data science project as well. So, it is a quite interdisciplinary field as well.
Okay, thank you so much for that. When you mean by interdisciplinary skills, you mean that it's cut across several fields. Like that means that.
Exactly. Exactly, like you have something that is interdisciplinary in the sense that you have several disciplines, for example, mathematics or computer science or, I don't know, energies or medicine, depending on the topic that you are applying it to.
So which means that anybody can become a data scientist.
Yeah, that's my true belief. It's something like that I think that nowadays, especially, like it's so spread all over, all domains that it is becoming the case.
Wow, good. So what exactly does a data scientist do?
I mean, it depends a lot on like which, of course, which domain you are working in. If you are, for example, I used to work in the energy sector. If you're working in medicine, you're going to be doing things that are different. But in a nutshell, as I said, like that, data science is this ability to extract information. So in a way, like I think there's some background. Okay, no, now it's good. So yeah, like you can think of like a data scientists as the folks who are basically like a digging or mining the data to get the information. So this can be done in several ways. It might be sometimes as simple as making a plot and interpreting it. Sometimes it might be more complicated and you need to use algorithms to extract more information and so on. But it's basically this is the job that someone does. Like you have to basically like ask the data like for questions that you want to be answered and try to find ways to actually get this information.
So thank you for that answer, which means that as a data scientist, my goal is to find solution to a problem. I should try to find out how I can solve this problem. So the problem can be specific, it can be domain specific, which means that it can be within the health sector, which means that it can be within the business sector. So it is domain specific. The goal of data scientists is to solve problems. The problems we are talking about can be in different fields. It can be in different domain. It can be in the health. It can be It can be in the mathematics section, so it can be in the economics, it can be in the business, or it can be anywhere. It can be in any domain. Thank you for that. So this takes me to the next question. What are the essential skills needed to become a data scientist? What do I need to become a data scientist?
Yeah, I think that exactly as you said very well, like the what we do as a data scientist is to solve problems. So I can, go around and tell a lot about several technical skills that will change in a few years because the field is always changing. But I like to focus on like to me, the core of data science, and that's why I think that everyone can be a data scientist, is your ability to solve problems. So your creative thinking, so to say, like your abilities to frame a problem in a mathematical way, in a way, but also in a way that you're considering, uh, for example, the business that you are working for, and nowadays also for example, when like we don't have only like this ability that we want to build a model that is very accurate and that's a success. Like, I mean, this is also important, but nowadays we have all the topics of, for example, responsible AI, in the sense of like, is this data respecting the privacy of the users? Is this model explainable, or can I understand what is coming out of this black box? Yeah, you name it. So like, I think that taking those things into consideration, also sustainability, for example, as well. So if you take all those things into consideration when solving a problem, so it makes a more complicated problem in a way, but yeah, that's kind of the problems that we have in the 21st century, I would say.
Okay, so I was probably thinking I was probably thinking maybe you want to expatiate more on maybe understanding Python, R in terms of the essential skills I need to solve problems to know so that I can be able to solve problem in data science. But just like what you said, it's like interdisciplinary skills. Um, um, it's cut across different domains, which means that it also requires you to understand which kind of problem you are trying to solve. But the tech skills that we need to understand, the tech skills that we need to use to be able to solve this problem. I was probably thinking maybe you can just talk more on like maybe I need to know Python, R, or whatever.
What's
Um,
what's
the,
the programming
yeah,
languages, right?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what.
So yeah, I think still, especially nowadays, with the whole boom of large language models and those very complicated models that basically come in packages, Python has been and it is now even more like the main language to learn for sure. Like if you want to get familiar with data science, but still, like depending on the domain, there are, for example, in I think finance and medicine, there are still depending of the company and so on, like lots of applications that still use a lot of R. This will depend, of course, a little bit of where you work or what kind of problem you're trying to solve. But like Python is always good to know at least the minimum because most of the libraries that we use in the field are very well developed there, and there is a huge community. So even if you have a problem, it's easy to find someone who can help you. And yeah, so like it depends. Like some fields are still it's not it hasn't been my experience, but some fields are still using R. Um, but yeah, like Python, R continue being like the things that everyone uses. And I would add, depending again on what you do as a data scientist, you might be involved with lots of data, just like querying data and so on. So like learning how to use, for example, SQL or things like that can also be like very handy because chances are that at some point you're going to use that.
Oh wow, good, 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 good. Thank you so much for that. So, which means that SQL is also something that you can actually learn because it requires you retrieving data from database and organizing data in a structured
Exactly.
way. Yeah. So, um, okay. So, Python, SQL, and I learned so much about Python library. So, do you mean that as a data scientist, like if I want to start my career in data science, do I need to learn Python from the scratch, or do I need because do I need to have a full understanding of Python programming? That's the question.
Mhm. So, I mean, I don't think, to be honest, anyone has a full like understand. Maybe the developers of the specific libraries, but programming as much as any other technology is something that is always evolving, changing. There's always like updates, new versions, and so on. So like those things that, oh, I knew how to do this with bananas, and then now I don't know how to do this with apples. So it is the same thing with sometimes versions of Python that you use and so on. So I think an important skill to learn when you are programming, whatever language, as a matter of fact, is to know how to debug things. So like how to debug your code, like not to be paralyzed, but like when you get an error and then you're like, oh my god. So to really like learn, and nowadays it's becoming much easier, of course, with the whole thing with large language models and also like with uh, the whole forums that we have. So it's easier to find. It's very likely that the problems that you are facing, someone already faced before. So this is something that is very important. But having said that, I would say that one, you need to know, of course, like the libraries that you are using. So, for example, maybe you are a person who uses a lot TensorFlow. So it's good that this is something that you're going to learn by practice. But it might be that you change to another company and then suddenly people are not using TensorFlow anymore. Then they are using PyTorch, for example, if you're like doing lots of like algorithms with machine learning, and then you have to learn that as well. So it's as I said, like I think this is always something that you are relearning and learning on the go, and then sometimes there are business decisions, sometimes there are trends in the field, and then people just move completely. So I don't think that, I don't know, 5 years from now we will not be using Python. So like it's definitely something good to know, and the basics, like how like the just like the basics of Python. But like I wouldn't say that you need to become an expert or something, because you probably are going to encounter things that are maybe beyond the scope of what you need it for.
Wow. Thank you for that. So, of course, like you said, technology is evolving, and this is a fast field, and we, of course, we cannot even ascertain or confirm that this is the language that is going to be in use in the next 5 years. So it's which means that like companies can start to use Python today and TensorFlow tomorrow, or another programming language can just pop up. We of course we can see what large language model is doing right now. Nobody ever thought about large language model, and look at what it's doing right now. So so of course we can see that this is a fast pace. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, and so dynamic. So I have some question here. I have another question. This takes me to the next question. What tools and technology should I be familiar with? I think you've said something like that. Just to round up, what tools and technology should I be familiar with?
So yeah, like I mean, even though the field is changing and it might be that the next best thing it's going to be something else. Nowadays, there is this very strong trend on cloud. So like for example, building data pipelines. It might be that you are a data scientist that works more with just data mining, like collecting data, extract, like analyzing data, and so on. So in this case. There are nowadays lots of companies are just bringing all of this to the cloud, so no one has just like your model in prem and your data like hidden in the computer. So like we have all of this already online. So like having said that, like again, is this thing of depending on which company you're going to work, it might be that they use one cloud provider that is not the one that you learned, and then you're going to have to learn it. But this is normal, and this is something that people are or should be familiar with if you're coming from the field. But just getting the basics of like how does the most important ones I would say nowadays are AWS and Google Cloud, and I forgot the other one, the Microsoft as well. So like you know exactly, Azure. So like in this sense, depending on the company that you're going to work, they might be using one or another, but just like learning more or less how is that one build a model like deploy a model and things like that. This is something that is quite important. And actually, just for the data science in the sense of analytics, I think that quite important thing is just visualization tools, especially dashboards.
Dashboard.
So for example, I mean, of course, again, depends on a lot on which domain you are working. But if you are working in business, chances are that you are not going to be most of the time discussing with data scientists. We'll be discussing with business people, and that means that they need to understand what you're talking about. And you cannot just come to the people and say, "Hey, this is my, accuracy of my model. This doesn't mean anything to them." So you really have to think of a way to build dashboards that are useful. So to mention a few, there is Power BI, there is Tableau, there is also Grafana, that is open source. So there are those are often things that you're gonna encounter if you are working in business. And for me, at least, it has been like quite helpful to just communicate results to, especially like to non-specialists and so on.
Oh, thank you so much for that. From what you've said, I can recall that you talk about dashboard in terms of communicating your
Mm-hmm.
results, and that's simply because as a data scientist, you'll be working across different teams, and you need to be able to communicate what you are doing because not everybody is technical,
Of
and
course.
which is great. So you talk about tools like Power BI, Tableau for visualization, which is good. Thank you so much for that. So, which means that as a data scientist, you need to get yourself familiar with tools that are needed in this space, and which is important for our communication skills. Okay,
Definitely.
takes me to the next question. How should I start my learning journey in data science? Like, how to start has been the greatest problem. Like, I believe that if people know how to start something, they can actually learn to leverage on other people's strengths with time. So, how do I start? How can someone start data science?
Yeah, definitely. Like I think that one thing that is very common for folks who are starting. I mean, if you say data science, this is like a massive field with lots of different subtopics and so on. So I always try to narrow down the problem to like like the most basic things. And I mean, nowadays, thankfully, there are lots of very good resources online. You can get like to watch like classes from the best places in the world for free online. And so I'm not so much concerned about the topics that you are learning or like the material that you're having because there are plenty of resources. But what I think is the method that you're going to do that. So, for example, when you say you are a data scientist, you are a data scientist applying your skills to one field, right? So, in my case, I worked a lot with sustainability, with renewable energies, and so on. Other folks work with medicine. Other folks might be working, I don't know, in finance and so on. So understanding the area of application that you have an interest is important. Like I mean, maybe you don't know, and maybe you need to start looking. So I would say that the first thing you would do, or that I would do, is to actually start looking. Uh, Even something very simple as like news or articles, YouTube videos, whatever is your like way of learning, just to get familiar, to see like, oh, this person is doing this application for medicine, for example. Like, oh, I am really interested in image analysis, and then there you go. Like for me, I coming from physics, like that's my background. I used to do a lot of modeling and optimizations and so on. And for me, it's very natural to just work with predictive modeling and analysis and so on in the field that I have now. So I think you first need to learn what is the field that you're interested in, like or the application, the domain that you're interested in. And then the next step would be starting to narrow down what are the most common problems that people have in that field. What are the most common tools that people use? As I mentioned before, some folks from some domains prefer to use Tableau, others prefer to use Power BI or things like that. or R in Python and so on. So like this is usually what will help you to kind of uh, direct, so to say, your learning journey. And of course, and then once you know like the domain that you want to apply, the common problems that there are there to be solved, chances are that nowadays you have so many resources. For example, you can go and find tutorials online. You can find GitHub portfolios or just projects that you can have access to the code. There is even like this very nice website called Papers with Code, where you can also get like an entire solution of a problem and like the research paper if you are into research and that. So like resources are all there. The main point is kind of like narrow down in which direction you want to go, because it doesn't make maybe much of sense if you are learning, I don't know, computer vision, if in the end you want to work with text data, for example. So
Yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you for your question. Thank you for the solution. Thank you for answering that question. Yeah, so I have somebody have a question here. He said, how did Rosanna get into data science? So the person is trying to ask, how did you get into data science? Can you share your experience with us?
for my case, yeah, I actually transitioned from academia, and now I'm transitioning back to academia. It's a whole story. But yeah, so I have a background in physics and astrophysics, and so I was working before with stars and so on. And in the same institute where I was working, we had a team for neuroscience where they were applying AI and so on. So we had a lot of seminars together, and I started to just learn more about it and learn about AI and data science in general. And I got very interested in that topic. And together, I got very interested in the whole topic of climate change, sustainability, and so on. And that one thing led to the other. And then, like in the past 5 years, I've been working as a data scientist, mostly in the energy sector. So doing a lot of time series, predictive modeling, analysis, and things like that. And now I'm coming back from that field, like from the experience that I got from there. And I just started a position actually as a lecturer and researcher here in Vienna. So yeah, now I will be teaching, but it's still like focusing on applied sciences. So I'm at the University of Applied Sciences in Vienna, and I will be teaching in the fields of AI and data science. And yeah, so that's the short story.
So thank you so much for that. Thank you for sharing your experience. And so we can be able to meet up with the time. We did not, so that we can be able to meet up with the time. So let's move to the next question. So the question I have now is that how can I build a strong portfolio to showcase my skills? You know, in data science, for you to get a job out there, you need to be able to showcase what you have done. I need to build projects on it. Of course, there are courses out there that can help you to learn. They are like what you said. And but how can I build a strong portfolio? How can I build it to showcase my skills to the recruiters and to people that to people and to recruiters? How can I build a strong
Yeah, this is something that is so important because this is basically the first impression that people will have. Like, of course, the folks who are technical, who will be evaluating you for a position, will be looking to see. And sometimes it's not about showing only how complicated models you can make. Maybe in the past this was the case, but nowadays with the whole like a revolution that we are having with large language models, the thing I said before, like programming. I'm not trying to say that programming is not important. Of course it is, but technical skills can be learned, and thanks to the developments that we are having in technology, is becoming easier nowadays. You can, if you want to do like a very simple linear regression, you can just ask ChatGPT and it will tell you. And you might have to tweak little things here and there and so on. And that's why it's important that you know how to program.
Yeah.
But this is like not the main focus. I think that when you are having a portfolio where you're trying to show it's not only your technical skills, but also your ability to explain things, which is very likely what we will be doing as a data scientist as well. So again, the ability of communicate results not only for like a technical audience. So, for example, again, following what I was saying before about like finding out what kind of field or application you are more
Yeah.
interested in, this helps a lot. Because, for example, if in my case, just because it's easier, like if you want to, I don't know, estimate, make a model that predicts how much energy is consumed in a city. This is a topic that might be very common for people in the field that you are working. So it's not about throwing again the same problem, but it's about how you solve
How
it.
you
So showcase, of course, your technical ability to build a model, to analyze data, and so on, but also how you do that. So I think that one of the most remarkable things about portfolios to learn is actually how to make markdown text. So because it's not only you just throw a code there and you have your portfolio and that's it. It's more like how you explain let me introduce this problem. What am I trying to do? This here is X Y Z and what I'm trying to, or what the limitations that I have in my solution are this, and this. So your ability to explain whatever topic. So one of the things that I still have in my portfolio, for example, is actually a very known problem that is now I forgot the name of the the problem, but the multi-hall problem that is the you just have several doors, and you have three doors, and then behind the doors you have either a gift or something bad, and then depending on who is explaining the story, there are different things behind the doors. But it's basically a statistics problem. And then it's not about for making a portfolio you don't need to necessarily have any a new topic. You can take a topic that is already explained out there, but just put and show your touch. How would you explain that? Like how you would learn that, and so on. And because in the end, that what you're going to be doing in business, you're going to be talking to people from from CEOs or
yeah.
maybe sometimes other data scientists as well, but
Mm-hmm.
different folks. And then you need to be able to explain your line of thought, basically your problem solving steps.
Steps.
So yeah. So in summary, maybe I would say that find topics that are relevant for the field that you're applying. So for example, if you're applying for a position in finance, maybe look into the topics that are common there and display some of those solutions. Of course, if you have maybe some original data set or something that you can do a little bit different, it's even better. But focus on really how you want to explain that. So I think that these are the most important things.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. So thank you. So which means that in building and showcasing your portfolio, it's important for us to be able to identify the fields that we are interested in, and understand, try to work on any problems in that field, and most importantly, use Markdown, right, to be able to communicate, to be able to explain some of the codes, so that people can
Mhm.
understand what you are doing, and also, of course, also uploading your work on GitHub for people to be able to see. Oh, thank you so much for this. Yes, so I have another question. Of course, we have a question here on, but before we go to that, let's address this. What is the job market like for data scientists? So, what is the job market like? What do you think? Is it a very lucrative job? Is it well-paying job? Is it? What do you
I
think?
think it has been this whole thing that being a data scientist is the sexiest profession you can have, and so on. And I mean, it makes sense, right? Because nowadays we have right now we are producing a lot of data by just having this live session here.
Mhm.
We produce data immensely, and of course, the amount of data that is being produced is increasing. So now we are learning how to process all these large amounts of data, and you need people in basically all sectors, all fields. I mean, of course, there will be some specific applications that are a little bit different than others, But like for example, nowadays we see a lot of cases in like a criminal justice, for example, or the whole like a rise of the ethics topic as well, and which is maybe more something more like in the philosophy domain, but it's also very important, of course, because we want to have like models that are ethic and responsible and so on. But basically, every technology, like a technology is a tool, right?
Yeah.
So like the way I see it, we have several problems that we have in the world, several disciplines or fields, as you want to call it, and technology is a tool. So data science or AI are basically tools that we're going to use to solve those problems. And you know, everyone needs to have like a most companies will have a data scientist. Like everyone who deals with data basically will need a data scientist. And the field has changed a little bit now, of course, with the whole rise of the large language models. We maybe saw like around the world some mass how do you say this? I lost the word in English, but like a lot of people were fired and so on from companies, and but the field is changing. So like the way I see it is that you still need data scientists for all those new fields that are like starting to appear more, maybe like more related to humanities and so on. Or but you also need field like people with the skills in the field, like who can understand models, who can like not just use them as black boxes. So as I said before, maybe large language models can make programming much faster and easier, and maybe instead of having 5 data scientists, you need only one. But you need to be still like a person who know how to understand those models, how to keep up with the the standards in the field, and like for example now with the whole topics of sustainability and ethics and so on, and also like how to save time. So of course you can come to a large language model and ask it like, oh, can you build this super complicated model for me? But you still need to know what model is best to use, and in the sense like being a data scientist is still quite is a quite like a strong position to have nowadays. So it is, yeah, like it's still like a kind of how can I say this? Yeah, it's changing basically. Like is a field that is still very well paid, and there are lots of positions out there. But if you follow, for example, the kind of jobs that you're seeing, the descriptions of jobs are changing a lot. So now maybe people don't focus so much more into knowing how to do something very complicated, in terms of technical skills or in terms of models and so on, because this is much easier now. But really, having this creative thinking.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, so there's this question. Before we move to the next question, there's this question. Is data analysis all about numbers? So I just need you to say whether yes or no. Is data analysis all about numbers?
I would say it depends. Because, for example, data analysis, you can be analyzing numbers, but you can also be analyzing images or text. And then in this case, you need to understand, for example, if you want to think of applications of natural language processing, just like text analysis. If you learn that the classical example of positive movie reviews have often those classes of words assigned to them, associated to them, and negative ones have those. So I don't know, maybe it's like a movies who are assigned good ones, like great and so on. So this is analyzing text. So it's not necessarily only numbers. But, yeah.
Oh, wow, thank you so much. Okay, so which means that data analysis or data science is not all about numbers. It can analyze text, it can analyze images, and I think the end product is converting all these text and images and audios into numbers, right?
Sorry,
So,
could you repeat?
so I'm saying the end product of all this, while working on this data analysis or data, sorry, on these text, videos,
Mm-hmm.
images, we tend to convert them into numbers with time.
In this sense, yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, if everything that you put into a computer in the end is going to be like ones and zeros. but, but in the end, like the whole, maybe, of course, like coming back to the, like just what data analysis is to try to extract information. Uh, might be that you just have a bunch of like, I don't know, very noisy data and you don't get any information out of it. It is still like a no solution is still a solution. So we still know that, but you know, it's something that is like the whole point of doing data analysis is to extract information. How you're going to do that, if it's going to be analyzing whatever kind of data, that's another story. But yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for this. Okay, before we move to the next question,
Yes.
can you let's quickly answer this question. How can I transition to a data science career from a different field? You know, you transition from, I think you've already answered the question somehow, but just a recap. You know, you transition from physics to data science. So, how can somebody transition into this field, data science field?
So yeah, I really like this question because one of the things like that you already mentioned, I work also mentoring people in my free time, and it is very interesting to see folks who come from really different fields than mine. For example, we can even have people who are I don't know, from philosophy or from law. That in principle doesn't have anything to do with math, doesn't have anything to do with programming and so on. But then when you start to talk to them and you realize, for example, one of the best data scientists I know is actually someone who has a background in law. So I find it fascinating that it's like, I mean, as I said, like a math, programming, and so on, all of this you can learn, but like the experience that you get from having a background, having like a really like a first-hand experience in a field, this is super important. So, I mean, if you're coming from STEM, like from sciences, technology, and so on, mathematics, so physics, computer science, you name it, you will have learned the main skill that I consider that I have learned in my like during my bachelor's and master's and PhD is the ability of solve problems and think critically. And this is something that if you come from those STEM fields, you have. So it's just like as I said before, maybe I'm not modeling, optimizing models to describe stars anymore, but I am optimizing models to describe energy systems. So the process per se is still the same. Of course, it's a different programming language, it's a different data and so on, but there is still the same, that I'm not starting from scratch. And this is the same, of course, like, of course, for someone coming from a very far away field, like maybe more with a background in humanities or business and so on, it might be that the person has to learn a lot about math and programming and so on, but they have this super crucial skill that is the domain knowledge. So I had to learn a lot about, for example, when you were going to, like, just again, an example from renewable energies, like when you're going to build a model to predict, I don't know, how much energy is generated, you have to think of so many variables, like what are the features that you're going to use in your model and so on. And if you're not someone from the field, you have no idea, and you're going to have to learn that. And whereas if maybe you are already in the field, you might not know how to build a model yet, but you have this knowledge. So it depends a lot on the kind of like backgrounds that you have. But it's I think the main thing when you're transitioning is to really find the transferable skills, like finding the things that you can use still as a data scientist. And I'm absolutely sure you will find something.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so thank you so much for this. I would love to do a recap, but we don't have much time on our side. So let's answer this question before the last question. So, as someone who is just getting into data science, primarily, can you recommend how I can go through this in a smarter way? So the person is requesting for a strategic way of learning data science in a very faster way. You know, you don't want to use several years studying data science. So Is there any necessary course to take and how to get them also? What are the courses you need to take to be very smart in the design?
Uh, there are nowadays like lots of course of resources. I particularly love the courses from deep learning and AI. And what I find really great about them is that they are on Coursera. If you need to find a link afterwards, you can also reach out to me. But like they have courses where you can pay it and get a certification, but you can also just audit them. So if the matter is just like a getting knowledge, for sure you can do that. If you want to learn in a more like a formal way, you can definitely find a lot of courses also online on YouTube, for example, that like Stanford, MIT, and so on. They all have courses there. I think Harvard has on the platform called edX.
Yeah.
So courses are like a, I would say like a, just pick one. Like I know it sounds like a silly advice, but like the story of my life with data science is just like me taking over and over and over and over and over the same course. So like just you want to learn about like, the basics of data science, great. Okay, so you're going to learn X, Y, Z. Now, if you want to maybe get more like hands-on experience with getting to a project, that would be the next step. Like first, of course, you take a course, you learn the concepts, you learn how to program things with very like I don't know state of the art problems. Like I don't know, everybody has to solve the Titanic problem and things like that. But then afterwards, I would really recommend to try to get either. I mean, it's a matter of preference. Like some folks are more into doing things alone and so on. That's also fine. So you can, as I said before, try to find a topic that you find interesting, and just sometimes you can just start with reproducing something that you saw in a portfolio somewhere, like and then like okay, how would I change this? Oh, what if I want to, instead of using this parameter, use other parameters? So this is a way, like a more friendly way, I would say, like to starting programming. And definitely what Opinion mentioned already, and that is something that we both did in the past, like volunteering. Nowadays, there are so many volunteering opportunities online, so many platforms. I think in the African community, there's the Zindi platform that is great. There's also Omdena. There are so many other places, and they have lots of projects, and you can really get involved and get a sense of how it is. Of course, it's volunteering. It takes time and so on, but in a way, I see it as an investment on your learning and your experience. And yeah, so like this is something that I would really recommend to just like you don't need to be the like I don't know to have 5 certifications or 3 postdocs or whatever to start working. So you can always start in a project and do something very simple. Maybe you are just collecting the data. Maybe you are just analyzing the data. Maybe you are just doing this and that. But every project that you get engaged in, you learn something else. And I think this is a good way to go about it. Like that's how I did it. At least when I was transitioning, I was like, okay, I want to learn this project. I'm going to work more in the modeling part because I want to learn more about the algorithms. Now I'm going to learn more about how to collect data or to clean data and so on. So like I try to have this kind of diversity. One for the sake of just learning how to do this, and two for the sake of learning what is it that you like to do. Because as a data scientist, most likely, I mean, depending on where you work, if you work in a small company, chances are they're going to be doing everything. But if you work in a bigger company, it might be that you're going to be more specialized on one of the different tasks that a data scientist has. Like maybe you're going to be focusing more on collecting data, or maybe you're going to be focusing more on deploying models in the cloud. So it depends a lot, and you need to know what you like. And so for me, I really like to do analysis. So that's what I really like to do. I can do other things as well, but this is like my favorite task. So.
Wow, thank you so much. I would love to say this. You said something that actually that is very, very interesting. In starting or building or transitioning into data science, number one, of course, she has mentioned that you can take courses on Coursera, on EDX. And then one thing that she said, start with the foundation, with the basics. Do not jump. If you jump, you come back. Like you will be in circle. Not,
Absolutely, absolutely.
don't jump. don't jump the basics. It is very, very important. That is the most important advice you can ever have here on this live show. So, number one, learn the basics of data science. Secondly, join platforms where you can have live, you can work with real world projects. Or before then, you can start with projects that people have done. Check other people's portfolio. Try to reproduce it. Try to learn what people have done. Thirdly, then you can join platform like I met her at Omdena. So you can join Omdena platform, for example, where you have the opportunities to work on reward projects. You can join Kaggle competition. You can join um other platforms where you can work on reward project. But one thing that I picked that is so exceptional, you must set a goal. She set a goal for herself, like, okay, for this project now, for this reward project that I'm joining, I need to learn how to collect data. So focus on that, because when you join reward project, you see several aspects of data science. So you need to first say that since you are just starting out, so don't think about I want to learn data collection, I want to learn data modeling all at once. Set a goal for yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for this project, I need to work on data collection. On the next project, I need to work on modeling. On the other project, I need to work on analysis. So with this, you build expertise in this data science field. Thank you so much for this. This is amazing. Before thank you. So before our last question, there's a question here. Someone said, why do you think in finance Power BI is more favored compared to Tableau? What do you think is the major edge Power BI has over Tableau?
Well, that's a very good question, and I don't know the answer. Sometimes I've been working actually with neither of them. I've been working with Grafana and a lot of Python as well. So I think that there is this tendency that I mean, this is just me thinking of like something like that someone started using that and then everybody just continued. Like I'm sure that if you talk to someone who are actually working in this field, they have their like a better motivations. But I can imagine that it's like a because like if everyone is using, might sound silly, like let's say like, oh, everyone is using this and then that's why we use it. It's the same for Python, for example. But it is a matter of like if you are in a field and there is like this established like a tool set that people use and you try to use something else, then if you want to debug your dashboard, for example, you have no idea how to do it. You don't have many people to actually ask for help for. So I think it's something around these directions. But in technical terms, I'm afraid I cannot answer that.
So yeah, so it is important for us to learn the tools that are popular that people are using, so that by the time you are coming into an organization, you'll be familiar already with the tools. That most organization uses this kind of tools, and that is the tools you should go learn. Don't even stress yourself thinking why do people prefer this over this. Don't stress yourself. Just learn what people are learning, because that there's tendency that is what the organization you're trying to you know join will be using. Yeah. So the last one before we round up today's session. Thank you so much. This has been an amazing session. Thank you. What's your top advice? For someone just starting out in data science. What's just recap? Let's just say, what is your top advice for someone just starting out in data science? What would you tell the person? What's your top advice for that
So
person?
I think that if you are in technology, and especially data science and AI, learn how to learn and learn how to relearn because the field is always changing, as you said. Like now, everyone is talking about cloud and large language models. 5 years from now, might be something else. And it's not like by having a certification or having even a degree in the field that you know everything. Like so, you have to really be up to date. Really read a lot of news, like subscribe to newsletters from the people who have like topics that are interesting for you in the field. And I think this is like just keep updated is very important because the field changes really fast. And if you're just like if you are out for a year, I mean, of course, it's not impossible and so on, like, but you have to catch up. Like, you have to always be. It's much easier if you are constantly doing that than if you have to, like, I don't know, isolate. And honestly, I'm learning this myself because I've been working a lot in like in the domain of time series and so on. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that there is this new whole thing going on here that I still have to learn. So yeah, but it's something that is very fun. Like I think that every data scientist is by nature someone who is very
Very
curious,
good.
and learning is part of like the process. So you're going to be constantly learning.
Wow. Thank you so much for this. Thank you for this. Thank you for joining this session. So
So,
one top advice is that you must learn to relearn. So you must keep learning if you are into this field, if you are into data science, and don't jump the basics. Learn to relearn. So you must yeah, you must always stay updated. You must learn the new technologies. You must stay motivated, and transferable skills could include curiosity. As long as you are very curious, so that means you do well in data science. And if you like solving problems, like you truly want to solve a certain thing, a problem within your field or your domain, definitely data science is good for you. And also, if you are interested in thank you so much. Thank you all for joining. So, also, if you're interested, if you're the kind of person that love to help people, I mean, data science is also good for you because you always see problems, you always want to solve it. And lastly, if you like to communicate, if you're a good person, like you like to communicate your ideas, you like to communicate your ideas, so that means that data science is good for you. You must learn all these tools, tech tools that is going to help you to communicate your ideas, or whatever problems you are trying to solve. You know, you must learn those tools, right? And use learn those tools, the dashboard, and lots more. Thank you so much for this session. Thank you, Dr.
thank you all.
Rosana. Thank you so much for
Thank you all
joining.
for being here and for like, this very nice conversation.
Yeah,
And yeah, good luck on your data science journey.
good luck, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye.